It's been a few weeks since my last Shadow of the Erdtree update video, and over the last 3 weeks the community has gone into full detective mode due to several SteamDB updates, another Elden Ring controller leak, and more recently the latest quarterly report from FromSoftware's parent company, Kakawa. So first things first, as of the 8th of February, Kakawa, the parent company to FromSoftware, released their quarterly earnings report covering the third quarter of the current financial year, this being everything from October through to December 2023. Unfortunately, in contrast to the latest quarterly report where we had several slices of information regarding Elden Ring's upcoming DLC Shadow of the Erdtree, in this most recent report it is barely mentioned, and what is mentioned doesn't bode well for the fans. On their business overview gaming segment, they show the net sales and operating profits for the first 3 quarters of the year, and in a nutshell mention that overall sales are down due to the high success of Elden Ring the previous year. The section that is of most interest to us though is the section titled Future Outlook. Here it reads, FromSoftware will further step up efforts to improve profitability in the medium to long term. Then, as a subline to this statement, they say, various measures are currently in progress for Elden Ring, including the development of major DLC to maximise LTV. So, there are 2 main things to take from this segment, but it is very important we don't see something that isn't necessarily there. The first line read, FromSoftware will further step up efforts to improve profitability in the medium to long term. So there is one key word here, further. To break down this sentence, it means that FromSoftware are already improving profitability in the medium to long term, and that moving forward, they will put more effort into improving this aspect of the business. This statement is about FromSoftware as a whole, and not specifically about the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. The next line, which based on the structure of the paragraph, is then going into detail about what FromSoftware are doing to improve profitability in the medium to long term. Here they state, various measures are currently in progress for Elden Ring, including the development of major DLC to maximise LTV. This is the sentence that most interests me. Firstly, various measures are currently in progress for Elden Ring. Various. This means that FromSoftware are cooking more than just the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Again, as mentioned previously, this could be anything from a special edition of the game to further DLCs, but at this time, that is just 100% speculation. As other than the Thrustmaster leak stating there would be some major key beat happening in 2025, we have no other indicators that FromSoftware are working on more Elden Ring content. As per the statement, of these various measures, one is the development of major DLC. So just to reiterate, they do not specifically say that the development of the DLC is medium to long term, although it has been stated as a sub-sentence under this. So at this point, it could go either way as to whether it is intended to have that meaning or not. The final part of the sentence is the to maximise LTV, which stands for lifetime value. And for anyone who remembers, this little phrase popped up in their previous earnings report that covered the second quarter of the financial year, which is July to September 2023. Here they stated on the same business overview gaming segment, in the outlook for the second half, which covers the second half of the financial year, which is October 2023 to March 2024, they stated, measures for maximising LTV of Elden Ring will be taken. So as we stated when we covered the second quarter report, this all but confirms that the measures for maximising the lifetime value of Elden Ring was indeed the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Going back a little bit now, and we need to dive deeper into this phrase medium to long term, as there are several ways this could be interpreted, which unfortunately doesn't really help us too much. But that being said, as this is specifically an earnings report, its main audience are the investors or shareholders of Katakuri. And with this in mind, there is no exact time period for what is short term, medium term or long term. However, as a rough rule of thumb, short term is up to 2 years, medium term is 2 to 10 years, and long term is 10 plus years. This does also coincide with other uses of the phrase midterm in Kadokawa's reports, whereby it was used to cover the span of 2023 to 2027 as part of their midterm management plan. However, as this is a quarterly report, it is possible that the phrase short, medium and long term are in relation to a 12-month period, with short being 3 to 6 months, medium being 6 to 12 months away, and long term being anything over 12 months. One thing that makes this extremely difficult to determine is the nature of FromSoftware being more locked down than MI5. Almost every other future outlook section for Kadokawa's other sectors all mention specifics like next fiscal year, March 2024, when referring to the timelines for their own projects. Even on the gaming segment slide, the future outlook for Spike Chunsoft is fully open about releasing their new title, Shiren of the Wandered 6, in the 4th quarter of this financial year. So it isn't a case of the report being vague with its use of timelines. This is specifically FromSoftware for one reason or another, not wanting to let the cat out of the bag. And let's not forget that the second quarter report clearly showed a huge surge in expected profits from their gaming business towards the end of this financial year. And as this current report shows that the sales have been lower during the third quarter, there needs to be something happening between January and March to warrant that projected spike in sales. As for the Katakuri report, that is literally all we have to go on, which sadly isn't much. And what there is doesn't bode well either, as if it is to be taken worst case, then the Elden Ring DLC is still a long ways off. However, not all hope is lost. SteamDB is the holy grail of information when it comes to updates on Elden Ring, and boy have we been chugging away from it over the last few weeks. So to quickly catch you all up, if you're unsure what SteamDB is, well, it's a third-party website and database of Steam games, their updates, price history, and much more. So when a developer updates one of their games, this information and any associated files are listed on SteamDB. It all kicked off on the 10th of January, as the SteamDB page for Elden Ring was updated with a new package titled SteamDB Unknown App 2778580. The file was locked, so we didn't have any information on what it was other than the fact it had been uploaded to the DLC section of Elden Ring, meaning that it wasn't a standard patch or update, but a fully fledged payable DLC. And to add weight to all that, all previous DLC for Elden Ring, including the adventure guide, digital art book, soundtrack, and bonus gesture, are all stored in this section. This unknown package was originally hidden from public view, then as of Monday the 15th of January, it was then made visible to our prying eyes. Then, over the next couple of weeks, there were a few minor changes here and there, but nothing of major consequence. Until that is, the 2nd of February, and the SteamDB change list went frantic with updates. The DLC package mentioned previously, 2778580, was then added to Dev Debug, and then over the next few hours slowly went through the other depots, including Dev Release, QA Debug, QA Release. These are the various stages that developers use to test and debug their games and updates, which usually happens a month or so before going live to the public. Obviously, this process can take longer if they find any serious issues during the process, but all being well, the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC is not far away. In other Elden Ring news, a couple of weeks ago there was also another limited edition Elden Ring controller leak that was spotted on 4chan and posted to Reddit, claiming to be from a website called PlayAsia.com, and that the leaker was an employee for PlayAsia, so they were able to access the page when no one else could. Luckily, however, within hours this leak had been debunked, and the controller pictured was found to be just fan art that had been posted on the Elden Ring Discord back in January 2022. More Elden Ring news, and on the 6th of February it has been reported that China's Tencent Holdings have been working on a mobile adaptation of Elden Ring. According to the report, Tencent wants to make a free-to-play mobile version of Elden Ring, with in-app purchases, with Genshin Impact as its main inspiration. The news comes from a report by Reuters, and in the report it states, China's Tencent Holdings has been working to adapt acclaimed action role-playing console game Elden Ring into a mobile version. 3 people familiar with the matter said, as it searches for a new hit to refresh its aging stock of games. The world's largest gaming company by revenue acquired the licensing rights for the game by From Software in 2022 and set up a team of a few dozen people to work on a prototype. The same year, it bought a 16% stake in the Japanese game maker, but progress has been slow, they added. Tencent did not disclose its plans to develop a mobile version of the game at the time. While Elden Ring was designed as a premium game with a set price tag, Tencent wants to make it a free-to-play game with in-app purchases similar to the hit game Genshin Impact. But the design of Elden Ring, which focuses on a complete experience after a one-time purchase, is at odds with Tencent's planned model. Tencent and From Software did not respond to requests for comments. The sources declined to be named as they were not permitted to speak to media. Tencent has previously encountered issues with adapting big console games for smartphones. It axed a project based on the popular Nier franchise in December over monetization concerns. My main takeaway from this is, will this ever actually see the light of day? Probably not. Tencent haven't had much luck recently in adapting other games for mobile. Due to the size and scope of Elden Ring, and the overall size-like genre, adapting this not only for a mobile experience, but also with in-app purchases, will take a long old time to get right. Personally, this news doesn't really bother me. I know a lot of people have been getting up in arms about how this will ruin Elden Ring, but at the end of the day, a mobile version of Elden Ring will literally have zero effect on the main game that we all know and love. So let's all calm down and put those pitchforks back on the floor. And finally, one other bit of From Software news that came out of the Kakawa third quarterly earnings report is that Katakura has purchased Acquire Corp. And if you don't know who they are, well, they made and developed the earlier Tenchu games, and more recently, the Octopath Traveler series. This purchase of Acquire Corp could well fall into Kakawa and From Software's plans from the second quarterly report to increase the infrastructure of their gaming development sector. And if we are really thinking out of the box, well, it may not come as a surprise that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was originally being developed as a Tenchu game by From Software, only to later be changed to a new IP. This is pure speculation here, but could Acquire Corp be coming back into the fold mean any signs of some form of new Sekiro content? It's a big old leap, but nevertheless, worth a thought. So, to sum up everything from today, the Katakuri report doesn't really give us any further information from the previous report, other than this one line of medium to long term, which unfortunately could mean literally anything, depending on how you interpret it, and might not even specifically relate to the DLC. The updates on SteamDB are a 100% clear indicator that the DLC is on its way, and is nearing the final stages of playtesting prior to release. Controller leaks are thick and fast, but do any of them hold any weight? This latest one is already debunked, but I do think the Thrustmaster leak from the end of last year is still legit. As mentioned in my last video, all of the Bandai Namco YouTube channels have updated their Elden Ring playlists, with no new videos going live, so this, in my opinion, is a trailer that is scheduled to drop soon. Last month, Pure Art's announcing on Twitter that they will be launching their first ever Elden Ring collectible in Feb 2024, and as yet they still have not posted any artwork or further information. And finally, at some point in the potential distant future, we may have the opportunity to place some form of free-to-play Elden Ring on our mobile devices, providing we can deal with all the in-app purchase notifications that you can guarantee will pop up just before, during, and at the end of every boss fight. But for now, that's it. My money is still very much so on the trailer drop and DLC pre-order being available on the 2nd year anniversary, so the 25th of February 2024. Let me know all your thoughts on the various updates we've had over the last few months, and when do you think the DLC will be available to pre-order and also play as well? Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Elden Ring content.